Good morning, students. My name is Ankit Dalela, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication, BBD University, Lucknow. I am going to teach the subject Microprocessor and Interfacing. The reference books are Microprocessor Architecture, Programming and Applications with 8085 by Ramesh S. Gaonkar. This book is for 8085 microprocessor. Next is Advanced Microprocessors and Peripherals by A.K. Ray and K.M. Burchandi. This book is for 8086 microprocessor. Introduction, Memory and Microprocessor. So the topics we will cover in this session are basic concepts, evolution of microprocessor, definition of microprocessor, microprocessor based system, memory, memory map and addresses, three cycle instruction execution model, machine language, and assembly language. We'll start with basic concepts of microprocessor. So there are three terms: microcomputer, microprocessor, and microcontroller. Microcomputer that you use nowadays, your normal computers and laptops, it is a computer with a microprocessor as its CPU or central processing unit. It includes memory and input output, etc. Microprocessor is a silicon chip which includes ALU or arithmetic and logic unit, register circuits, and control circuits. And the last one is microcontroller. It is also a silicon chip, but it includes microprocessor, memory, and input output in a single package. So, what is a microprocessor? The word comes from the combination micro and processor. Processor means a device which can process anything. So, in this context, we are talking about the numbers, especially the binary numbers, zeros and ones, because microprocessor is able to understand only the language of the numbers, zeros and ones. To process means to manipulate. In this context, it means to perform certain operation on the numbers. So the operations that we generally perform on the numbers are arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and logical operations like and, or, not, etc. Now, what about micro? In the late 1960s, processors were built using discrete elements like transistors, capacitors, etc. These devices performed the required operation but were too large and too slow. In the early 1970s, the microchip was invented. All of the components that made up the processor were now placed on a single piece of silicon. The size became several thousand times smaller, and the speed became several hundred times faster. Thus, the microprocessor was born. So, was there ever a mini processor also? No. It went directly from discrete elements to a single chip. However, comparing today's microprocessors to the ones built in the early 1970s, you find an extreme increase in the amount of integration. Integration means adding number of components on a single chip. So nowadays, a large amount of components are integrated on a single silicon chip. So what is a microprocessor? Let's define it. So the underlined words are the keywords of this definition. The microprocessor is a programmable device that takes in numbers, performs on them arithmetic or logical operations according to the program stored in memory, and then produces other numbers as a result. So by this definition, there are some keywords like programmable device. So we can program this microprocessor. So we have to learn programming also in this subject. It takes in Takes in means we have an input device. Numbers means we are going to perform some kind of operations on the numbers. Performs on them arithmetic or logical operations. So I have already told you arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and logical operations like and or not, etc. Program stored in memory. So again, this microprocessor also has a memory. So we'll be talking about memory in detail. Produces means it gives the output. So the output can be given on the monitor or LEDs. So we are going to expand this definition now. First is programmable device. The microprocessor can perform different sets of operations on the data it receives depending on the sequence of instructions supplied in the given program. By changing the program, the microprocessor manipulates the data in different ways. So, what is an instruction now? Each microprocessor is designed to execute a specific group of operations. This group of operations is called an instruction set. This instruction set defines what the microprocessor can and cannot do. So while programming, we used to write some instructions, and a sequence of instructions is called a program. So here we are going to study the instruction set of microprocessors 8085 and 8086, and then we'll program it. Next is takes in. The data that the microprocessor manipulates must come from somewhere. It comes from what is called input devices. These devices that bring data into the system from the outside world. These represent devices such as keyboard, mouse, switches, etc. And then the numbers. The microprocessor has a very narrow view on life, hence it understands only binary numbers. So the binary numbers are zeros and ones, binary digit. The letter B and IT of binary digit forms a bit. The microprocessor recognizes and processes a group of bits together. This group of bits is called a word. The number of bits in a microprocessor's word is a measure of its abilities. Words, bytes. Now, what are these terms? The earliest microprocessor, Intel 8088 and Motorola 6800, recognized 8-bit words. They processed information 8 bits at a time. That's why they are called 8-bit processors. They can handle large numbers, but in order to process these numbers, they broke them into 8-bit pieces and processed each group of 8 bits separately. So these microprocessors can process 8 bits at a time. So their word size was 8-bit. Later, microprocessors 8086 and 68000 were designed with 16-bit words. So these microprocessors can process 16 bits at a time. A group of 8 bits were referred to as half word or byte. A group of 4 bits is called a nibble. Also, 32-bit groups were given the name long word. Today, all processors manipulate at least 32 bits at a time, and there exists microprocessor that can process 6480128 bits at a time. Next is arithmetic and logical operations. Every microprocessor has arithmetic operations such as add and subtract as a part of its instruction set. Most microprocessors will have operations such as multiply and divide. So generally 8085 has only the addition and subtraction part in its instruction set, but 8086 microprocessor also has instructions regarding multiplication and division. Some of the newer ones will have complex operations such as square root also. In addition, microprocessors have logical operations like AND, OR, XOR, shift left, shift right, etc. The number and types of operations define the microprocessor's instruction set and depends on the specific microprocessor. Now, stored in memory. What do you mean by memory? Memory is the location where information is kept while not in current use. Memory is a collection of storage devices. Usually, each storage device holds one bit. Also, in most kinds of memory, these storage devices are grouped into groups of 8. These 8 storage locations can only be accessed together. So, one can only read or write in terms of bytes to and from memory. So, one bit can be stored in one flip flop, and a combination of 8 flip flops is called a register. And generally, 8085 can access, that means read or write, 8 bits of data at a time. Memory is usually measured by the number of bytes it can hold. It is measured in kilos, megas, and gigas. A kilo in computer language is 2 to the power 10 or 1024. A KB is 1024 bytes, mega is 1024 kilos, and giga is 1024 mega. When a program is entered into a computer, so first we'll write a set of instructions in a sequential manner. It will form a program. Now when this program is entered into the computer, it is stored somewhere. That somewhere place is called memory. Then as the microprocessor starts to execute the instructions, it brings the instructions from memory one at a time. Memory is also used to hold the data. The microprocessor reads the data from memory when it needs it and writes the results into the memory when it is done. So the microprocessor takes the data from memory and processes its data and then stores the result again into the memory. Produces. For the user to see the result of the execution of the program, the results must be presented in a human readable form. So the results are presented on an output device, which are printer, LEDs, or monitor. So now by this description, we are able to form some kind of diagram, block diagram of microprocessor based system. So it consists of microprocessor which takes the input from input device, gives the output to output device, and the memory is used to store the information or data, right? Inside the microprocessor. Internally, the microprocessor is made up of three main units: the arithmetic logic unit, control unit, an array of registers for holding data while it is being manipulated. So these are the three main units of microprocessor: ALU, CU, and array of registers. So now we will expand the picture of the block diagram. So instead of microprocessor, now we'll write ALU, register array, and control unit. Input, output, and memory is as it is. Now here we are using system bus. So system bus is a connection between input output device, microprocessor, and memory to the output device. Now what is memory? So we'll be explaining the memory in detail. Memory stores information such as instructions and data in binary format 0 and 1. It provides this information to the microprocessor whenever it is needed. Memory is classified as primary memory and secondary memory mostly. So what is primary memory? Programs and data need to be in primary memory in order to be executed or referenced, right? So the data, whatever is going to be processed by the microprocessor, must be stored in the primary memory. This primary memory is further classified into RAM and ROM. These are the terms that you might have heard nowadays. So what is RAM? RAM is random access memory. It is a temporary memory or volatile memory whose data would be erased when the system has been shut down or when the power goes off. RAM is further classified as DRAM, SRAM. So what is DRAM? The contents in DRAM is dynamic RAM. The contents in DRAM are constantly refreshed 1000 times per second. And SRAM is static RAM. The contents in SRAM doesn't need refreshing. So SRAM is faster than DRAM. But these both the memories, DRAM and SRAM, are volatile and temporary memories. Next is ROM, read-only memory. It is the memory that performs the read-only operation. It does not have write capability. ROM is further classified as PROM, EPROM, double EPROM, etc. So what is PROM? Programmable read-only memory. It is again a ROM that can be programmed to record information using a facility known as PROM programmer, which cannot be changed. Right? EPROM is erasable, programmable, read-only memory. It is a ROM that can be erased using ultraviolet light, and the chip can be reprogrammed to record different information using a special PROM program facility. And the last one is double EPROM, electrically erasable, programmable, read-only memory. It is a ROM that can be programmed and erased by electrical signals. Right? Next thing is secondary memory. These are the storage devices which are used to store large amount of data permanently. Some common examples are floppy disk, hard disk, compact disk, digital video disk, pen drive, and Blu-ray disk. So these are the components which you might have been using and heard about it. Some of you might not have heard about floppy disk because it is outdated nowadays, but rest all you might have heard about. Next is magnetic memory. Now try to visualize the picture of this magnetic memory. These memories store information on one or more circular platters or disks which are continuously spinning. These rotating disks are coated with a magnetic material and stacked with space between them. Information is recorded on the surface of rotating disk by magnetic heads as tiny magnetic spots. So here we are talking mainly about the hard disk. So the hard disk internally looks like this only. The concentric circles on the magnetized surface of the magnetic disk are known as tracks. The tracks are commonly divided into invisible pie-shaped sections called sectors. So the hard disk is also circular. It is divided into tracks and sectors, and the information or the data is stored in these sectors, right? Next is cache memory. It is high-speed memory available inside central processing unit in order to speed up access to data and instructions stored in random access memory. When the data is found in the cache, it is called cache hit. So again, it is a volatile memory. The data is readily available to the CPU in the cache memory to be processed so that the speed of the processing increases. Next is real and virtual memory. Physical memory is the actual real memory used in RAM. If the RAM falls short of memory to accommodate the running process, the operating system allocates a portion of the hard drive to act as RAM. This allocated portion of hard drive used as RAM is called virtual memory. So basically we have the physical or real memory. But if the processor falls short of the RAM, then OS allocates the RAM to in the hard drive, which is called virtual memory. So this is the memory map and addresses. It is a pictorial representation of the address range and shows where the different memory chips are located within the address range. So this is a typical diagram of 8085 microprocessor allocation of memories to different chips. Here we have considered RAM 1, RAM 2, RAM 3, RAM 4 and EEPROM. So the addresses have started from 0000. These are the hexadecimal notations. That means 0000H to FFFFH. So each chip has a certain range of addresses to function into it. We'll be doing some examples on this memory map allocations later on. Memory in microprocessor now. To execute the program, the user enters its instructions in binary format into the memory. The microprocessor then reads these instructions and whatever data is needed from memory, it executes the instructions and places the results either in memory or produces it on an output device. The 3-cycle instruction execution model. Now, how the program is executed. To execute a program, the microprocessor reads each instruction from memory, interprets it, then executes it. So there are 3 cycles: reading, interpreting and executing, right? To use the right names of the cycles. So the technical names of these cycles are: the microprocessor fetches each instruction, decodes it, then executes it. This sequence is continued until all instructions are performed. That means all instructions in a program. Now, machine language. The number of bits that form the word of a microprocessor is fixed for that particular processor. These bits define a maximum number of combinations. For example, 8-bit microprocessor can have at most 2 to the power 8. Now here 2 is always the base of binary numbers and 8 is the 8-bit microprocessor. So 2 to the power 8 is 256 different combinations. However, in most microprocessors, not all of these combinations are used. Certain patterns are chosen and assigned specific meanings. Each of these patterns forms an instruction for the microprocessor. The complete set of patterns make up the microprocessor's machine language. So we will be studying this language in the next session. 8085 machine language. So 8085, as you all know, is an IC from Intel. It is an 8-bit microprocessor. The 8085 uses a total of 246 bit patterns to form its instruction set. These 246 patterns represent only 74 instructions. The reason for the difference is that some instructions have multiple different formats. Because it is very difficult to enter the bit patterns correctly, they are usually entered in hexadecimal. Like for example, the combination 0011 1100 is translated as 3C. 0011 is 3 and 1100 is C in hexadecimal. So this notation is called increment the number in the register. So every notation has a particular meaning in the microprocessor's language. Next is assembly language. Entering the instructions using hexadecimal is quite easier than entering the binary combinations. So the microprocessor understands the machine language, but we will be entering the hexadecimal combinations or mnemonics. It is still difficult to understand what a program written in hexadecimal does. So each company defines a symbolic code for the instructions. These codes are called mnemonics. Mnemonics is pronounced as mnemonics. The mnemonic for each instruction is usually a group of letters that suggest the operation performed. Like, for example, if we want to add two numbers stored in different registers, then we write the instruction as add B, comma C. So this add is a mnemonic. B and C are the registers used in microprocessor. Now we will again use the same example 0011 1100, which is translated as 3C in hexadecimal, and its mnemonic is INRA. So by INR, we want to say it is going to increment. So INRA is a mnemonic. It increments the data stored in the register called accumulator. INR stands for increment register and A is short form of accumulator. Accumulator is a 8-bit register used in microprocessor 8085. Another example is 1000000, which is translated as 80 in hexadecimal, and its mnemonic is add B. Add register B to the accumulator and keep the result in the accumulator. We'll be doing these instructions in the next session of instruction set. Then you will understand it deeply, each and every mnemonic and its usage. Assembly language. It is important to remember that a machine language and its associated assembly language are completely machine dependent. In other words, they are not transferable from one microprocessor to a different one. For example, Motorola has an 8-bit microprocessor called 6800. The 8085 of Intel machine language is very different from that of Motorola's 6800. So the machine language or the dependent assembly language varies from company to company. A program written on 8085 cannot be executed on Motorola's 6800 and vice versa, right? So in the next session now, we'll be studying about the microprocessor architecture and its block diagram, the pin diagram, and we'll start with the instruction set. Along with the instruction set, I'll be telling you about its usage in the form of short programs. So stay tuned. We'll see you in the next class. Thank you.